2020's got us thinking out of the box, including out of the ballot box. Mail-in voting, early voting, curbside voting, drop boxes. This election's popularized non-traditional ways of getting us and keeping us participating. Add to those another, Votes at 16, which is the name of a new book by Niall Michelsen. Michelsen is a professor of political science at Western Carolina University. His idea started as a question to one of his classes.
And the students, by and large, were like, no, that's not a good idea. That's a stupid idea, Dr. Michelsen. That's 15-year-olds don't have the knowledge. They don't have the emotional maturity. My younger brother is definitely not voting material, that kind of stuff.
A lot of you out there are thinking the same thing. The negative responses are typical. But as Michelsen looked into it, he found the idea of voting at 16 is not a new one, and could be a way to strengthen turnout and make it more diverse. The typical arguments against that, like that 16-year-old doesn't have enough knowledge to vote. What's your pushback on an idea like that?
It turns out that 16 and 17-year-olds certainly have less knowledge than 50-year-olds and 60-year-olds, but they also, some 16 and 17-year-olds have more knowledge than some people who are 40 or 50. Knowledge of politics, of the political system, knowing of the mechanics of our government, knowing about the difference between political parties. Some 16 and 17-year-olds know more than some of the older people. We don't test anybody else for their political knowledge, right? When you go to vote, you don't have to show that you know how many branches of government there are or how many members of Congress there are. So only the 16 and 17-year-olds seem to have to pass a test. So the other thing that struck us as we were digging into the history of voting in the United States is that just about every other group that had been excluded, and we all know that at its origins, the United States was mostly a white male landowning republic, right? You had to be a white male, and many places you had to have a certain economic class before you could vote.
Right.
We've certainly extended that, but just about every group that was excluded from that white man's republic has been characterized as being less knowledgeable, less emotionally stable, less capable of being able to make, sophisticated political decisions. So the same criticisms that everybody was making of the 16 and 17-year-olds were made against African Americans. They were made against non-property owners. They were made against women. They're not capable. Well, in reality, John, there's a spectrum. There's people fall somewhere along. Some of us are very knowledgeable. Some of us are not. It's a sliding scale, and there's nothing magical happens when someone turns 18. They don't all of a sudden, there's not a disc that gets put into their head that fills them with all sorts of, political knowledge and insight.
Michelsen says when 16-year-olds can vote, it turns current events from vague notions to be understood later into pressing issues that they can act on now. He says that's borne out in the places that have allowed a younger vote, including some municipalities in the U.S., in countries like Scotland, Austria, and Malta, and 4 Latin American countries like Brazil and Argentina. There, 16 and 17-year-olds often outperform 18-year-old voters.
The first election, when someone is voting age eligible, not necessarily, so voting age eligible, so either 18 now or 16 in the future. If that person doesn't vote for 2 or 3 elections come, elections go, and no voting, chances are that person will never become a regular voter. Now, some do. Some come to voting later in life. But conversely, if someone votes in the first 2 or 3 elections, then the chances are that they will become a lifetime voter. So voting is habitual. And the problem with the 18-year-old voting, the status quo, is that at 18 is not a good time to start a good habit of becoming a citizen, because many people are leaving home. People are going off to college. They're going to join the military. They're going off to Chicago to get a job, or they're going someplace to follow their loved one somewhere. But that is not the circumstances in which someone is likely to begin to build a habit of voting. 16, on the other hand, is a time, because they're going to be in school. That civics class, that American government class, will be able to guide the students through the steps that it takes to become a not only an eligible voter, but a experienced voter.
In the book, you also say, this could end up increasing voting, but also contribute to more diversity in voters. How does that work?
One of the things that a lot of Americans at 18 are doing are going off to college. One of the greatest predictors of whether someone is going to become a voter or is a voter now is how much education they have. It's how old they are and how educated they are. So someone who's an old person with a lot of education like me, even if you didn't know I wrote a book about voting, you'd probably say, I bet he votes. But there are essentially, the 18-year-old, the age of 18, when young people are graduating high school, leaving, and oftentimes leaving home, there's one path that leads to college and there's one path that doesn't lead to college. Mm-hmm. The people that go down the path to college tend to be regular, high turnout voters. It is the people that take that path. The people who don't take that path are much less likely to become habitual lifetime voters.
I see.
Okay. And to get back to your question, John, to the people that go down the path to college tend to be whiter and richer than the people who go down the other path. So right. Our college population is both. It's a economic and a racial a matter here.
Votes at 16 contains other ideas too, to strengthen democracy in shaky times. The book is available at Lexington Books. Dr. Michelsen said the book is available for a 30% discount if you write him at Michelsen, Michelsen, at WCU.edu. For the People's News, this is John Moeller reporting.